So today we are doing a summer salad. So this is kind of a fun, I really like this one because it is like a salad or a, like you can do it as a lettuce wrap. I really like that it's good leftover. This one doesn't seem to soften a ton when it's left over, even if the dressing is on, and that's for a couple of reasons, but it's got a fairly citrusy dressing, so that's one of the reasons that I like it. And it just is really a very substantial meal salad. It can be adapted for vegetarians or vegans, or it's dairy free, so it kind of like runs the gamut of like options. It's a pretty high protein salad, so that I love about it. So we're going to start with lettuce, because I think as we get into summer, right, and we see more and more lettuce, I want to give you my favorite lettuce cutting tip, because lots of people, when I'm asking people what their biggest kitchen challenges is, often they'll tell me it's meal prep, right? They struggle with the meal prep aspect of life. And I find this little tip, if you will, of salad prepping really helps that meal prep element, because then I always have lettuce in the fridge at all times, already cut, already washed, ready to go. And if you are a gardener and grow your own lettuce, then what I love about this concept of cutting lettuce is that it gets all the dirt out of the bottom, and you'll see why in a second. The other thing I love about it for my nutritional consultants is that when we're doing, I don't know about your schools, but when I do like chicken Caesar salad at our school, we'll do upwards of 45 heads of lettuce in a day. This is the most efficient way I've found to cut a head of lettuce, and so it's quick. So basically you're going to take your head and you're going to leave the end on. This is where most people go awry. You want to leave the end on. Take a serrated knife, and then you just want to cut down the spine of the lettuce. So just find your spines, because you know our favorite part of the lettuce when we're at the restaurant is that big chunk of spine you get, right? So you just want to go down the middle of the spine, so you can see that I've just cut. And if you go through, and then I just kind of turn it till I feel like I've gone through, depending on the size of my head, till I feel like I've gone through enough times so that my pieces are going to be a decent size, because this is the way to get them smaller. And then you just take it, you grab it, collect it in. Obviously, I'm doing this a little slower than I would do it normally if I was cutting it for myself, but just like that, I've cut the whole head of lettuce. And so, where if you're a gardener and you collect all of that dirt into the bottom, this really gets it all out. I'm just going to toss it into my spinner so that I can dry it, because, do you have salad spinners? Lots of people I know don't have salad spinners. My mom included. I think it's on her Christmas list because it drives me crazy when I go there. You want to have dry lettuce for a couple of reasons. One, if you're storing it and prepping it, you want it to be dry because it lasts longer. But so if I'm prepping it, if you have like a Tupperware container, you can store it in one of those Fridge Smart types. But honestly, I store mine in a Ziploc bag with a paper towel in it, because we go back and forth to the lake and I don't want to have to like a container back and forth. So I just Ziploc bag, paper towel, and be done with it. And it lasts.
We have a question here on the chat. Bar, it says, do you have any questions with browning where you have a cut?
So where you have issues with browning is when you've got a dull knife. And so I find that if you have a really sharp serrated knife, I find mine takes about 4 to 5 days to brown. So if you're eating it, you'll be fine. So if you've got a really dull knife, or if you've used like a straight blade knife, I find it's more likely to dull then. You can use, there's lots of like lettuce knives out there. I honestly don't own one. I've never used one. I always just use a serrated knife. So that's what works for me. And for the most part, we're eating our lettuce within 3 or 4 days of cutting it. So we don't really, I haven't had that issue. So you probably aren't going to use it 6 days out anyway. It's going to be gross by then, but I've not had an issue with a sharp serrated knife. And I've heard ceramic knives. I think it's, if you've got one, great. And if you want to go buy one, awesome. But I don't have an issue. I have one. This is a good stainless steel knife. And so there's lots of myths around lettuce and at browning. It's like anything with a myth. If it works for you, do it. But I have heard ceramic knives are fine too. I don't own one, so I haven't tried that experiment, but yeah, I've heard that they work too. So it's important that you wash your lettuce because again, it keeps it fresher longer, but also the more important thing to washing lettuce, can you still see me if I'm over here, is that the wetter the lettuce is, the more dressing you need. So if you are in a season of life where you're really trying to cut back on some of those like calorie dense phases of life, you want your lettuce dry, because the drier it is, the less dressing you need. Because you can imagine, like, think about it conceptually, right? Especially if you've got like an oil and balsamic vinegar, right? Oil is going to run off water, and so if it's dry, the oil is going to stick. So you want it good and dry. At school, I discovered I have a big commercial dryer and I can dry a lot of lettuce at the same time, so I love that. So if you are one of the nutritional consultants and you do a lot of lettuce, I was able to buy a commercial lettuce spinner that allows me to do about, what am I doing, 12 to 14 heads at a time. So, and they're not really that expensive. So anyway, I can get you that info if you want. So I'm just going to put that in the salad bowl. So you can see, I don't know if you can see, like it's just nice, lots of nice little pieces, and that was as long as it took me to cut it. I don't know about you, but I don't have time to stand around. My mom used to wash every leaf and then stand at the sink and tear it, right? And I don't have time for that. Okay, the other thing that I've done here is I've just taken 2 leaves off the outside, and I'm going to show you how you can turn this into a lettuce wrap equally as much as you can turn it into a salad, because this one, I will make all of the fillings together separately, and then I'll keep those stored separately so that I can just toss them to go, because they work really good on the end of a fork. So, okay, I've got some peppers that I've washed up, and I think I showed you guys how I cut peppers last time, but for those who like a refresher, I just cut the bottom and the top off, and then I just take my knife. This one has very little insides left. Okay, this is important. Do you know the difference between your green pepper? You gardeners will know this, the difference between your green pepper and your colored ones. If you don't, I'll tell you. Colored peppers are ripe green ones. So if you think about that from an economic standpoint, when you walk into the grocery store, you see like a pile of green, and then you see like a little pile of red and orange and yellow, right? And if you think about that from a farming agricultural perspective, the green ones are cheaper. They've taken less time in the greenhouse, they've grown quicker, they've had less water, they've had less energy, and they've also had less loss, right? The longer you ripen something, the more likely you are to have loss, which is why there's less of the colored ones, and they're more expensive. So there's just a little. So I never buy a green pepper if I can avoid it, because they're not ripe. So they're just like, lots of people complain that peppers give them indigestion, and often it's the green ones, they just don't realize it, because they're not a ripe vegetable. So oh yeah, line the paper towel. I can't see the rest of your comment there. I'll have to look at that in a bit. Yeah, you can certainly, but I find if you get it super dry, then you don't have to line it. But yes, it does help to line it if you want that to be extra dry. Especially
I can read it out to you.
Sure, that'd be great.
It says, we always line our salad bowl with a tea towel and to soak up most of the water after spinning it. Just remember to remove the towel before adding your dressing.
Yes.
I also store lettuce wrapped in the towel and covered with plastic wrap.
Yeah, exactly. That's another way, especially at school where you need to do big volumes. I do that as well. Just put it in a big bowl in the fridge, covered in plastic. Yeah. Sometimes I have students in helping me in the afternoons, and so I'll get them to do the lettuce. I actually taught the grade 7 and 8s to cut their lettuce this way this year, so now it was a bit of a double-sided coin. Now I have some helpers because they know how. So I've got some red pepper. So what else is going in this salad? We've got red pepper and we've got green onion. So again, I washed up some green onion and we're going to dice it up. And this one, again, you can just dice it sort of as small as you want. This is another one to remember your knife skills for. We talked about this, I think, on the first class. Your knife shouldn't need to make a lot of racket on the cutting board. And it should be a smooth motion. And your choice of knife is really a personal choice. I am a Santoku knife person. That's what you'll always see me pick up. But if you're a chef's knife person, then that's good too. Knives are really such a personal preference thing. All right, so I've got some green onion and some red pepper. Now I have pre-cooked some chicken, so I'm not going to cook the chicken for you. Obviously that would take us a little bit too long. So this is again another one. I always pre-cook quite a bit of chicken around here, and dice it up, and then I dice it and I put it in the freezer. So I have it all ready to go for the tops of salads or lettuce wraps or really anything that I want to have chicken for. And if you're looking for a chicken cooking tip, I grill all of mine on an indoor grill. But if you're doing a large volume, at school what I do is I bake it. So I'll put chicken breasts on a big cookie sheet and I'll bake it in the oven for about half the time it needs. And then I will brush it with some oil or usually some sort of dressing. So like on a chicken Caesar salad day, I'm brushing it with some like garlic plus seasoning and olive oil. I brush that halfway through and then put it back in the oven to finish. That really just traps all of that moisture in and really makes it a nice, gives you some longevity out of it and doesn't dry it out. So bake it halfway and then brush it with oil. That's what I do when I'm at school. Okay, lettuce, chicken. Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about pineapple in a second. This recipe, of course, it's Jamaican, right? So it needs a little bit of, I don't think they grow pineapples in Jamaica, but anyway, needs a little pineapple freshness. So one of the reasons I said earlier that I like this recipe is because it's got so much citrus in it. It doesn't really go too soggy the next day. And that's because it's got pineapple and it's got lime in it. So pineapple is a bit like peppers. Everybody has their own way to do them. Now, here's one thing I did want to say. There is often a myth in how to tell if a pineapple is ripe or not. So I learned a few years ago that pineapples don't really ripen after they come off the plant. So they're on the plant till they're, and then at that point they just sort of like progress towards rotten, if that makes sense. So people used to say, you know, pull the leaf off. It's actually not a good indicator in North America of a pineapple being ready because our pineapples have been on the truck for a long time before they get to us. So sometimes the leaves just come off because they've been in storage for so long. The best way to tell the state of your pineapple is to pick it up and to smell the bottom. So your bottom should smell sweet. If it smells musty, it's probably getting to that moldy stage. So that's the best way to sort of tell the state of your pineapple is to smell the bottom. This one, and pineapples are so precarious. And so I wanted to show you how I like to cut them because they're one of the things that lots of people buy pre-done because they find them frustrating to cut. And I don't know, you can say in the chat if that's you. So I quarter it, and then I always use a bigger knife. And then, just want to make sure you can see this. Okay, then I just take my knife and I kind of go in like I'm going to skin it. Okay, so I've put my knife in there. I started it backwards for me because I'm right-handed. And then I basically take my knife and go around it like that. That's what I find to be most efficient and fastest for me. There are all kinds of pineapple wedges and pineapple gadgets out there, but if you aren't a gadget person or you don't have any of those, a knife is super quick. And then just like that, and then dice it. As I tell you not to make noise on my cutting board, I do in a hurry. All right, I'm gonna toss some of that pineapple in there. Now this recipe, the other thing I wanted to share about this recipe is it has a homemade dressing, which I think is always a win if you can have a summer fresh salad with a homemade dressing. Oops, I did that backwards. Just go in and then just skin it. Does that make sense? Let me know if that pineapple strategy doesn't make sense to you. But that's the way I like to do them. And I find they're so expensive when you buy them already pre-done and pre-cut, that if you can do them quickly and efficiently on your own, then that's good too. All right, chicken, pineapple, pepper, green onion, lettuce. Oh yeah, black beans. All right, can we talk about beans for a second? You should always rinse your beans. Do you do that? You can give me a little shout out if you do that. You should always rinse your beans. Lots of people say that beans will give them gas, right? That's another common conundrum with beans. And the reality is that most of that gas that comes from beans is in the goop from the can. Oops. There we go. So you want to make sure you get them a good, I should have done that before we started. But what I like about this salad, remember I told you it could be vegetarian or vegan. It has, I mean, these black beans are a really great source of protein. So they go in here really well. And they are also, what I like about working with a black bean is it's a really hearty bean. So I like it in a salad because some beans just don't do well in a salad. And it's going to be a large bean salad. Oh, it'll have lots of beans in it. Okay, and then the fun part, because you know, everybody needs a fun in their salad, is just some bacon. So I've just air fried up some bacon here. And sometimes when it gets nice and crispy, you don't even have to dice it. I just crumble it in to my insides here. It's my kids' favorite part of the salad. You can pick out the bacon. And then, now our salad is done. Well, the insides of it. We're going to do the dressing. So this dressing calls for 3 ingredients: mayo, lime, and pineapple preserves. Now, that is actually a very difficult thing to buy in Canada. And I have yet to find it. So in a pinch, if I haven't had my next ingredient, I will take some pineapple and just run it through a citrus press or puree it up in a processor of some sort. But for the most part, anytime you see pineapple preserves in a recipe, you can almost always use apricot jam. I use apricot jam in a lot of marinades. It's a pretty common marinade item. And so it's one of those things as summer approaches. Now my hand is greasy from the bacon. As summer approaches, I always have apricot jam in the cupboard. I have a maple glazed chicken recipe that I use it for. And there's something about it that just marinades really nicely, and it also goes into salad dressing very, very nicely. So, all right. 2 tablespoons or a scoop, right? Because sometimes we don't have to measure everything. A scoop. Now, the other thing, it doesn't say specifically. Oh yeah, it does. You always want to, when you can, always zest your limes. And we talked a little bit about this last time, I think, in that so much of the flavor in our citrus fruit is in the peel. And when we are paying $1 a lime or a lemon in the dead of winter, you don't want to throw any of that value and any of that goodness of flavor down the garbage. I wish you could smell this. The zesting of a citrus fruit is really so key to the aroma of a meal. So even if you want to use, like, we talk a lot about, you'll see a lot of like orange zest or something like that in a muffin or a marinade. But getting a really fine zest is really where you're going to find a lot of your flavor and a lot of your texture. Now, when it comes to citrus fruit, we're getting closer to being in season, but again, in the dead of winter, when we're paying $1 each, sometimes there's nothing in them. So there's sort of 2 tricks that are out there for really getting more juice out of your citrus. And one of them is rolling it like I've been doing. Or the other one that's more common is to microwave it. So if you put it in your microwave for about 5 or 6 seconds, then it'll just release all of those juices from the fibers, and you'll get a lot more substance out of that. So I zested it. Now this is I'm not gonna make a full, I'm not gonna make, see, I got a lot of juice out of that lime. The recipe calls for 2 limes. There's no way that needs 2 limes because that is a lot of juice out of it. And then it wants 1/3 of a cup of mayo. So again, in the situation where you need to be dairy free. This is one of those recipes when people, this recipe is paleo. So my paleo eaters just make their own mayo because they can't do, I'm gonna say eggs. I don't remember, but this recipe really does, if you're going to a function where you know you have a lot of dietary needs, this recipe is very versatile that way, because it really can fit all of those components. So that's as difficult as the dressing is. So like I was saying earlier, one of the things about this is that it does last overnight, and that's because it's got all of that citrus and the lime in the juice. So I'm actually going to toss this in with all of my salad fillers, if you will. I'm just going to toss that all together. If you can see that. Because, just move this out of the way for a second. Alright, so now obviously I've got my salad, that's the easy part. But then I've got my lettuce wraps. So you can take this, and you can just obviously toss it on the top of the lettuce, or if you take it, fill that to a really nice volume. Now, you can just pick it up and enjoy it like a lettuce wrap. So you can do this with, I have romaine just because that was what I had the top of, but you could do this with a butter leaf or a Bibb lettuce, any of those that really you want to do a lettuce wrap with, they're great. But I personally always have romaine, so it is my go-to lettuce wrap salad. And so the other thing about this salad is that this is one you could actually have all the components mixed up ahead of time. So if you're going camping or going to a potluck, you could have all of this salad inside stuff mixed up a day in advance, and then just add the dressing on the fly with the lettuce. So that is easy to prep ahead. It's easy to turn into a few different things. Honestly, this salad is amazing the second day because it just marinates a little bit more in all of those flavors. And so that's one of the reasons, I mean, I just love so many components of it. It's so versatile and so flavorful. That's it. We just made salad. Felt like that was
Amy, that sounds amazing. I think I will have to go and make it later tonight. Does anybody else have any questions, or did you miss anything on the recipe that you want to ask Amy before we finish up here? I'll just see if
somebody talked about so the oil on your chicken when you're baking it was a tip that actually was given to a friend of mine who is she's a Red Seal chef, and when we were cooking together, she was the one who told me that that's how to cook the chicken. So it made a huge difference at school this year when I did that way. Looks great. Okay. Well, that's it. You guys, this has been fun. Thank you for joining in for cooking with me. How much mayo? It was a third of a cup. It was a third of a cup of mayo. If you scroll all the way to the top, so if you joined us late, if you scroll all the way to the top, you'll find the link to the recipe up there. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's such a great salad to take places, and it's so showy. You could add with all the colors, right? Because we added red pepper, and then the pineapple is orange, and the green onion. It's such a fun, colorful salad too. I think that's the other reason I love it, is that it feels very summery and very fresh. You could totally even add like sunflower seeds or something if you felt like you needed to add more, but I don't think it needs it. Oh, you're welcome, you guys. I love cooking with you. It has been super fun for me to be able to do this. I've enjoyed being able to cook and to teach with you all through this spring season, and hopefully we'll see some of you in the fall. So I don't think I have anything else, so unless anyone else has questions, I think we're good to go.
Yeah, I'll end the recording session here.
Sounds
and
good.
then we will finish up here. We just have a question if there's a substitute for the Jamaican rub. So if you want to answer that, then I'll stop there.
Honestly, you could use any rub. This one, the stuff that I use one that's called bell pepper and herb. It's a Pampered Chef one. You could use a garlic. I don't think it matters. The Jamaican's going to give you a little bit of spice. So if you're not going to use a Jamaican rub, I would add something like, I might add a dash of hot sauce to the dressing, or a little bit of red pepper flakes, just something to give it a little bit of a bite, a little bit of just a very dash of cayenne pepper, very small, something to give it that little bit of flair, because Jamaican is quite a little bit more spicy, but you're not going to notice the spice in the seasoning or in the dressing. The salad, because of the mayo, is going to pull back that spice. Perfect. Oh, good. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me again. Have a great week, everybody, and we will talk to some of you again soon. Bye for now.